Hi you guys, and happy Halloween. Today is Wednesday, and that makes it weigh-in Wednesday for me. And that's the day that I come on here and I make a video and I weigh in about what's going on in my life and what's going on with my weight and what I'm doing to get it back to my goal of being a normal BMI of 136 pounds and how I'm doing that way. And today's video is actually in response to a request I got from a lot of people. If you remember last week, I told you how my recommendations were for how to respond when someone you know has had a relapse or has put on a lot of weight, how to respond to that and how to help the person. And it got a really good reception, so thank you so much if you gave me a comment on that video. But one thing that a lot of people asked for was, what if you are the one having the relapse, or what if you're the one who's really embarrassed because she's put on a lot of weight? And so I have some tips for you, and I'm going to share those today. Really quick to get it out of the way, I did take off a pound this week, and so that puts me at 189. And so let's just start with that. So my relapse, let's start with what I weighed originally, which was 436 pounds. I got down to 132 at once upon a time. In fact, right around this time last year, right around Halloween last year. And then I had a relapse, and I put back on all the way back up to 228. And now I'm at 189. So I would consider myself to be past my relapse, and I'm back on a good path. And I'm not judging that based on my weight, although that is one thing that you could objectively look at. But because I have resumed the habits, because we're going to talk about, it's all about habits, that have resulted in me having success and moving back toward my goal. Okay, and so again, it's all about the habits, and that's how a relapse happens. So understanding how to halt a relapse or how to get back on track, you first have to understand why relapse happens. And I have notes, so you're going to see me looking down a lot today because I put a lot of thought into this, and I just want to share this with you. So basically, it's really simple. If you could picture a scale, like the old-fashioned scales of justice, where there's something on one side and there's a counterbalance on the other side, anytime you have, you can pretend like on that scale, on one side there will be stress, okay? Life stress. That could be everything from having kids and a family, or just having a stressful job, the normal everyday things that we have to do, emails, food planning, exercising, just all the stuff that people have to get in the day. All of that goes on one side of the scale. And then on the other side of the scale are going to be support. And support is both supportive people and supportive habits that we form that help us, okay, to stay on plan when we have a goal. And to stay on goal, it's very simple. To stay on that path, to keep a relapse from happening, you always have to have more weight, a heavier program of support, both in supportive people, supportive groups, and supportive habits. That has to be heavier than your level of stress. So as your level of stress gets heavier, guess what you have to do? Step up your program so that it meets the level of stress. Okay, so that it's always a little bit stronger. You have to keep that, you have to keep your support stronger and heavier than your stress level. Okay, and so what happens in a relapse is very simply, when your stress gets higher than your support level, people relapse. And specifically, we stop doing the habits, what we had been doing habitually that supported our recovery. For instance, if we were planning meals, we stopped planning meals. We avoided buying trash, we start buying it. We avoided triggers, for whatever those triggers might be for us, like restaurants or parties or holidays, and now we're not avoiding them, or now they're coming back around again. We used to go on walks, or we used to meditate, or we had some other kind of exercise program, and now we're sleeping in, or we're not making time for those things. We're saying, I just don't have time to do that anymore. Well, truth is, we all have the same 24 hours a day. What gets done is what you decide to get done, right? And so there could be all kinds of things. I had guests, I was a guest, I was traveling, making excuses. The weather is too hot, the weather is too cold, too rainy, too snowy. Again, it's all about priorities. And so basically, whatever you were doing that was supporting you, you stopped doing it. Or you did it less, or you did it less effectively. And that results in a relapse. It's really important to realize when a relapse is going to happen, when you have warning signs. So some warning signs, for me, it's really strong that I start thinking about eating it. I think about, they call it even mind tasting, where you think about how it would taste, or you think about that thing that you had that time that you liked, and you start thinking about it again. You start thinking about circumstances under which it might be okay for you to have it. Well, maybe I'm just gonna have that thing on Christmas, you know, just on Christmas, and then the very next day I'm gonna get right back to it. And then the next step, besides thinking about it or contemplation, also called ruminating, is actually taking actionable steps to start toward that. So starting buying crap when you hadn't been buying crap. Buying crap and saying it's for somebody else in your family is a really common one. Deliberately going where crap is served. I'm using crap in place of, you know, naming these kinds of foods because I definitely don't want to trigger anyone. But basically, going somewhere where something that is not on your plan is served, instead of avoiding that before. You know, that's analogous to like an alcoholic starting to go to bars again. Let's see. Oh, not wanting to plan, the feeling, saying you're being lazy or blaming it on laziness, or it could be true laziness, or it could just be lack of energy, to plan, to shop, to cook. You stop doing those things. When you stop planning, oh, well, it makes it really convenient to have an excuse later. I didn't have anything with me, so I just ended up eating what was there, or I didn't cook anything, and the only things that were available were, you know, had oil in them, or you know what I'm talking about. All of those things. And then another thing is avoiding your support friends. Avoiding your Facebook groups where people, you're like, oh, I'm just so sick of talking about diet. Or, oh, I'm just so sick of, every time I talk to her, all she talks about is how she made another recipe that was compliant, or, you know, avoiding those people. Or, you know, and especially if you start to regain weight, avoiding those people that know that you should be on plan, or avoiding eating in front of people that know that you were eating a certain way. You definitely start avoiding those people. Okay, so those are all the warning signs that relapse is gonna happen. So be really careful. Like if you're sitting, you know, it is Halloween. I just want to acknowledge that I'm making this video on Halloween. You may be sitting there with a big bowl full of sugar, and sugar might be something that you have decided is off your plan, which I hope you have. You know, why did you do that? Are you just like, well, it's tradition, I have to give out the stuff to the kids, or I won't eat it, but I want to make sure that they can have it, or, you know, I don't want anybody else to suffer because of me, or what will the neighbors think if I don't give out candy to their kids when they give out candy to mine? You might be making some kinds of equivocations, compromises, reasons in your mind, and those can be a warning for an impending relapse. So I'm just telling you, if you're doing really well on your program, don't let tonight derail you. Don't, you know, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Fun size is not fun in the end. If it makes you, it wasn't fun for me to put back on all that weight. I felt terrible. You know, think it over. Picture in your mind, do what we call like a pre-mortem. when someone dies and it's accidental, sometimes people will do a post-mortem. They'll try to figure out why the person died or what happened. Do that ahead of time. Like, picture yourself eating the thing, and then picture tomorrow morning feeling terrible, being in a bad mood, being cranky, being disappointed, putting weight back on. You know, go ahead and go through that in your mind and decide if it would be worth it for you, because it definitely wasn't worth it for me. It was really, really, really sad and frustrating and just heart killing. I don't know how else to say it, to put back on all that weight that I worked so hard to take off. And you know, I worked so hard. I made a video every week like telling you how hard I was working. So that's, I just want to say, hey, if you were thinking of doing it, please don't do it. Okay. So then what happens that starts the relapse, we call it the trigger, and that is you are exposed to a trigger and you go off your plan. So it could be exposure. You weren't around something and then all of a sudden you were around it and it surprised you, or you didn't plan for it and then you had it. That one happens to me a lot. Opportunity, you were alone. It looked yummy and you were by yourself and nobody was going to see you do it. Environment, your environment got junk in it, or you were in an environment that had junk in it. Willpower depletion, specifically watching out for things like you got too hungry, you were really angry, you were really lonely, you were missing company, you were feeling sorry for yourself, you were tired, fatigued. You know, rats who are sleep deprived will eat 25% more than rats that are not sleep deprived, that are well rested rats. So don't be a rat. And if you're going to be a rat, be a skinny rat, right? Get your sleep. It's very important. Stressed. If you're feeling stressed out and you're just overwhelmed. And then finally, the second S is sad. So you're feeling sad for whatever reason. You're going through grief. You're looking for comfort. All of those things are going to be triggers. And so whatever caused it, was it environment, was it opportunity, was it exposure, any of those things, was it having your willpower depleted by something that's in the halts list, whatever happens, then the relapse happens, right? So I think it's funny when people say, what happened? Why did you eat the thing? You know, I don't think they ask other kinds of addicts that. I don't think they say, why did you take those drugs? You know, I think that the person will be like, because I really like the feeling when I'm on the drugs. And I think it can be that simple for us. We really like the taste of some of the things that we like the taste of, and we've held out for a really long time and we aren't able to hold out anymore, and we aren't able to modify our behavior. And I think it can be something as simple as that. It doesn't have to be like a deep psychological failing on your part. It just means that your willpower ran out before your opportunity ran out. Okay. So now we want to, our goal after we've had the relapse is to stop the slide and resume the program, right? Get right back on track so that you can have a good result. Okay, so first you have to determine, was it actually a relapse? Okay, so there's a slip, there's a slide, and there's a full relapse. So a slip is I messed up on one opportunity, and then I'm at the point where I have to decide if I'm going to go back to my program now. You know, I made a decision other than what I normally would have made the decision, but it just happened the one time. A slide is when I was on vacation and I had several days or several times when I chose to be off track. And now I'm back from my vacation and I have to decide, am I going to be resuming now? A full relapse is when you are just like, the heck with it, I'm off my program now. No rules apply. I'm back. It's the wild, wild west. I am back to whatever I used to do before. So the two determining factors are both length and severity. So how long you've been off and how bad did it go? Like, did you go from being a raw food vegan to like full sad diet, full, you know, meat, dairy, McDonald's, processed, whatever. Like, how bad did it get? How far, not necessarily how bad did it get, but how far did you go off your plan? And so the more of the severity of the relapse, the bigger the program that's going to be required to help you recover. And then the most important thing I would argue, and I'm going to stop the video at this point, and then I'm going to do a part 2, because this is getting really long and I really want to have the time to really go through all these, okay? So this is what I want to leave you with. Your biggest response to any kind of slip or relapse or slide or whatever you want to call it, putting back on weight that you took that was so hard to take off, it needs to be self-compassion and self-forgiveness. And please listen to me on this if you don't listen to anything else. You know, you didn't rob a bank. You didn't kill anyone. You know, what you did was you were trying something incredibly hard. This is something that Dr. Lyle talks about, that it's in this society, in our world, where literally, you know, poison is vended on every corner. Every other commercial is for poison, is for things that you're trying not to eat. It's amazing that any of us do as well as we do. Like, that's a miracle. Like, you deserve so much credit for doing as well as you did. And the fact that you slipped a little, or, you know, even slid, or even had a full relapse, all that proves is that it's really tough, and that you deserve so much credit for deciding to do this in the first place. And the fact that you did do it for a while, or you did get to your goal weight, that proves that you can do it, that you are super strong. Because again, you know, even if your house is pristine, you walk outside the door and you're just someone trying to live clean in a dirty world. And so, you know, sometimes you're trying to stay clean in a dirty world. Some of it gets on you. Like, it's gonna happen sometimes, unless we work really, really, really hard to make sure that it doesn't. It's gonna happen. And if it does, do not beat yourself up about it. It would be, treat it like if you were driving in your car and you made a wrong turn. Would you say, you know, oh, that, you know, I might as well give up and drive back home and go back to where I was? No. Right? Or does your GPS say, you are such a jerk, I told you to turn right at the next street and you didn't turn right? Fine, just stay here. You're never going to get to where you wanted to go. No, that's not the response either, right? All we do is we say, uh-oh, that didn't work, something went wrong, and then we just get right back on track, right? Return to the route, proceed to the route. So that's what I want you to do, is just forgive yourself. You know, that can be really hard because you may be dealing with a lot of consequences of what you did, but it's vitally important. It's vitally important. Even like, write it out. I forgive myself for going off track, and I believe in myself, and I know I can do this. And let that self-compassion and just kindness and forgiveness be the first thing that you do. It really is the first order of business. All right, I'm gonna make a part 2 and tell you the rest of everything, but I just want to tell you, I hope you have a great Halloween, and if you're eating clean, let's still be eating clean tomorrow, okay? The only ghost I want to hear about is like the Halloween ghosts, not the ghosts of all the phantom of all the stuff that we had that is making us feel terrible and is derailing our program. You know, just baby think it over before you have that first bite. I'm going to commit to you guys right here, right on this video. No sugar is crossing my lips. Zero, none, nada, not having it, not giving in, eating just like I do every other day since I've been back on track. And I want to hear that you're going to do the same. So tell me in the comments. I'm going to stay right on track, and let's do this together, okay? Love you guys. Bye.